Today we will be reviewing the preschool lesson planning form for creative curriculum. In the top corner, you see there is approvers, initials, and date. In this section, someone in academy leadership needs to review the lesson plan, provide the teacher with feedback, and then initial and date saying that they approve the lesson plan. This all needs to be done before the lesson plan can be hung up in the classroom for that next week. The next section is week of. You want to put the full month, day, and year here. Next is just some more general information. So the teachers inside of the classroom. So you want to put both teachers' names if there are two teachers in the room. If there's just one teacher, he or she would just put their name. The room number, and then the curriculum study. The curriculum study, you are going to get that information from the curriculum timeline that is provided. So if the curriculum timeline says that right now we should be talking about trees, then that's what you would put down as the curriculum study, trees. You don't need to put the investigation number that you are on or anything like that. You just need to put the overarching curriculum study that we're working on. The next section is rest time experiences. So we know that it is very important for children to have a rest time routine. There needs to be something done pre-rest, during rest, and post-rest. So in this box, the teacher is going to want to evaluate what things they need to work on to promote rest inside of the classroom. So one thing, for example, for pre-rest that they might want to do is to be able to start to settle the kids down. Maybe you have them sit or lay on their cots while you read a story to transition them to nap. So kind of like a quieter activity. During rest time, something that you could list that you may do is maybe, let's stick with the curriculum study of trees. Maybe during rest time, you play nature music, nature sounds, to help the children to fall to sleep. The thing that you can do post-rest is maybe you notice that there are a lot of children who are still really, really tired when it's time to wake up. Maybe you talk about positioning them in a place in the classroom where it would be the least disturbance if they sleep a little bit longer. So maybe all the way on the other side of the room in an area or a center that's not really used in the afternoon, or in a non-high traffic area, so that you can give them those extra few minutes of rest before trying to wake them up again. Or how are you going to re-engage them? Maybe you want to have a song that is a little louder, a little faster, and that's a signal to kids that it's time to wake up as you're starting to wake them up. So you need to put here what's going to work best for your classroom. So, but remember, it's really important to develop that nap time routine. The next section is health, safety, and nutrition activities. So this can be one of three things. So it can be a resource that you send home. So perhaps maybe you are sending the parents information about proper hand washing home. It can be something that you do with the children inside of the classroom. Maybe you are working with the children on proper hand washing procedures, and you have an activity or a story, or during that routine, you're going to be working with the children to make sure that they are doing it for the 20 seconds and getting enough soap and getting a good lather going under the water. So that's something you can do. The other thing this could be is a family partnership type activity. So it can be something that perhaps you're inviting the parents in to do, or sending home as a home connection. So for example, September is Better Breakfast Month. Maybe you're inviting the parents in to have breakfast with their child. Or maybe you're asking them to send in a picture of a healthy dinner or snack that they have at home. So that's something that could be a home connection. So it can be one of those three things that you put in that box there. The next thing is transition ideas. So we know children are consistently transitioning from one activity to another throughout the day. You need to put what you are going to do, or what based on what your class needs, to support transitions. So if you know your students have a hard time with transition, a 5-minute warning might not be okay for your class. You might have to give a 10-minute warning. And how are you going to give that warning? Is it a bell? Is it a song? Is it a signal? How are you transitioning? What is something that maybe you're doing in the hallway while you're transitioning from the classroom to the bathroom? Is there a choo-choo train that's going down the hall? Is there a song that you're singing when you're going to the bathroom so that children can prepare? How are you supporting children with transitions throughout the day? Also think about, you may have a child who this is their first time in preschool and they have some separation anxieties transitioning from home to school. So what are you going to do to make that particular child feel comfortable? Maybe you have a couple children who feel that way. Is it that you're going to put pictures of their family on their cubby, or in the cozy area, so that when they feel sad, they can go do that? Are you going to let the child, if they feel more comfortable, standing kind of closer to the door until they kind of settle down? Let them stand there and you're just supervising to make sure that they're okay. You know your children best. So what is going to work for those different types of transitions that might be occurring inside of your classroom? The next box is family partnerships. This is a homeschool connection. It needs to be some hands-on things related to the curriculum study that can bring the curriculum home. So let's stick with trees, since that's what we're have been using as an example. So maybe you ask the parents, one of the family partnership activities that you do is go outside with your child and do a tree bark rubbing, or have you and your child work together to draw a tree based on what we've been learning about trees. So and they can bring it in. We want to make sure it's hands-on things, not dittos, not worksheets. Though when things are hands-on, it makes the concepts more concrete for the child. So another thing is, if we're doing the clothing study, you can have one of your family partnership activities could be allow your child to help you sort the laundry or fold the laundry or do the laundry. It's making that concept of clothing more concrete for the child. The next section is evidence of learning boards. So in your classroom, you should have 4 evidence of learning boards: cognitive, language literacy, physical, and social emotional. You need to be displaying what you and your students are doing inside of the classroom. So for preschool, appropriate displays would be pictures. I think pictures are an excellent way to tell a story. So you could take a picture of the child in the science center investigating the leaves with a magnifying glass. Another thing is art. So if they bring in that homeschool connection of drawing a tree, you can post their trees. It can be a discussion that you have that maybe you've recorded on chart paper. So maybe during morning meeting or circle time, your question of the day had some really interesting responses. The children displayed some larger vocabulary during that time, and you can post that in that area. It can also be a writing sample. So it could be a couple of things. You want to make sure you have a variation of those things. And like I said, I really like pictures to go along with some of those other things, because I think the pictures tell a story. So even if it's the kids at circle time talking, taking a picture of them having that collaborative discussion. Again, I think it paints a better picture. So on this box, you're going to put what board you plan on changing and what you plan on putting up. So if you're going to change the physical board and you're putting the picture of the bark rubbings that the children did on your walk that day, then that's what you would need to put. Physical board, pictures and artwork of bark rubbings. So that's what you would put on there. None of your evidence of learning boards should be empty, because you're not going to take one down without putting something up. So you want to make sure that things are consistent. The next section is thoughts for next week. So you just want to start pre-planning for the next week's lesson plans, or what you may need, what the students may need, what's coming up, and reflect on what you should be doing, what needs to be done to support the children's learning in the classroom, and what supports do you need. So is there something that you need from leadership or whomever to be able to support you with these things? So again, there's no right or wrong answer. It's just your personal reflection and pre-planning. The next section is when we actually get into your planning of the activities for the week. So the very first line is the question of the day. That comes directly from the creative curriculum study, or if that question doesn't apply or we're not able to make it concrete for the children, you can adjust the question, but that's going to be your question of the day. And all you need to do is simply write the question in that box. The next section is circle time or morning meeting. This is your large group. We know that whole group activities should be limited in time to ensure that the children stay engaged. So sometimes I see that teachers have the circle time that never ends. So you want to make sure that your circle time is meaningful. The point of circle time is to welcome the kids into the classroom. It's kind of your kickoff to the day. You're welcoming the kids into the classroom. You might have some circle time routines that you do, but then you're really starting to get into the theme. Remind the kids what you did yesterday. Talk about what you're going to do today, what's available in the centers during free play time. And then they should be free to go explore those centers. So don't think that all of the learning happens at circle time, right? And you need to, and we'll get into this when we talk about the centers, but you need to make sure that the centers or the interest areas have things in them that support the study. So the science area would have leaves and tree bark and things like that during the tree study for the kids to explore. Or if we're talking about clothing, the dramatic play area, you might have made a washer and dryer for the kids to be able to explore. So don't think that learning only happens during circle time. So in this box, you're going to put an objective. Objectives always start with CWBAT, that stands for child will be able to. And it's what's the point of the activity? What is the outcome? So is it that the child will be able to count to 5? It's the broad concept that the child will be able to jump. The child will be able to sort objects by color. So you want to come up with what is the point of the activity? What is the learning outcome that you want to get from that? Then you're going to list the actual activity. So put in as much description as you can so that if someone, a substitute, needs to cover your class, they know what to do. But you don't need to be so descriptive that you're taking up 9,000 pages, right? So give enough so that somebody knows what they should be doing if they're taking over your class or if they're observing your class. And in this box, you would put that activity during circle time. So if I'm introducing buildings and we're going to be reading The Three Little Pigs and doing kind of maybe a finger play or a role play activity in that, then that's what I would put there. It is not, you should not be putting in this box your routines. So that's like your welcome song, your circle time calendar, those types of things. Those are routine. Those are things you do every day. What are you doing to reinforce the study at circle time? Okay, and I just gave an example of that. The child initials section. So based on your observations that you're doing on the students, in this box you would put if a child needs help with this particular activity, if this is an activity that you created with this child and the skills that this child may be struggling with or that this child really excels at and needs to be challenged with in mind. So you're going to put that child's initials. You will not individually plan for each child each week. It's impossible. So what you will do is by the end of the month, you should have planned at least once for each child in your classroom individually. Remember, there could be more than one initial here. So if 3 children need support with the same concept, let's just say cutting with scissors, you can put all 3 of their initials there. If the child has an IEP or IFSP, they need to be individually planned for every week. Okay, so we need to make sure we see that child's initials every week in that line. And then you're going to indicate the learning standards. So all you need to put here is the number. You don't need to write the actual standard. You're just going to put the numbers from the standard. Next is your large group. So that's going to be a continuation of your circle time section. So it might be that kind of group discussion that you have in the creative curriculum study books. It gives you very, very specific ideas of things that you can do here. And you can just write a brief description of that. Same thing, you're going to include those child initials and learning standards. Then here we are in this interest area / choice time or free play time. So again, you need to write the objective. Every single activity needs to have an objective. And this is kind of what I was talking about earlier, where you would put that for this particular day in the dramatic play area, you're going to have a washer and a dryer and maybe some water buckets available for the children to pretend to wash clothes. Maybe it's that activity in the science area where you're going to allow children or encourage children in that area to investigate tree bark and leaves. Maybe it's that in the black area, you have put farm animals and you're encouraging children to build a farm because we're talking about different types of buildings and those types of things. So it's what are you putting in the interest areas that promote learning? Yes, free play gives children choice, but we can set up and provide activities in those areas that relate with the study. Your room should transform. So when someone walks into your classroom, they should automatically know what you and your students are learning about because everything in that room should transform. Same thing, child initials and learning standards under that. Your small group. So this small group is usually during free play time where you'll pull a couple students and you're kind of the center. And this would be an activity that is targeting a certain skill. So for example, if children need support with scissors, cutting with scissors, then you would pull those children into a small group and you would have a scissor cutting activity for them. So you're writing the objective, you're outlining the activity, and then the child initials, the children who you'll be pulling for that group or the children that would benefit best from this activity. Again, a learning standard that goes with that. Your read aloud. So this will be the book that you will be reading aloud that day. Your objective, again, child will be able to, what's the point? Are we going to be retelling the story, having the children retell? Are we talking about character? Are we talking about setting? Are we talking about that we want the children to be able to sequence the activities in the story? Is it that we just want to expose them to the story and have them engaged in a read aloud? It's their first time reading it. So you need to think about what the point is, because we know we read the book more than once. So what is the purpose of this exact reading of this story? And then under activity, you can just write the story. And then again, if there's an activity, if it's just not you reading the story, if it's, a sequencing activity or something like that, you would detail that also under the activity. Again, child initials and learning standards, if any child initials apply to that. And of course, we need to have the learning standards. The next section is changes to the learning environment. So like we talked about under the interest area section, we need to kind of change those interest areas. They should be transforming to align with the curriculum study. So in this area, you're going to add which interest area is going to be kind of getting that makeover and what you plan on adding to it. So for that dramatic play example, it would be a cardboard washer and dryer. For the science example, it would be to the science area, I'll be adding leaves and tree bark and acorns for the children to explore. So you just need to write what will be changing in order for you to be able to do those activities that you have listed above. Your gross motor experiences. So in these boxes, you're going to detail what you plan on doing with the children inside, so in your gym. So that could be a group activity. It could be something that you plan on bringing, because we also, besides structured activities in the gym, we want to provide the students with free play time in the gym, right? So it could be something that you're bringing to the gym for the children to use during free play. So maybe you need to see how the children kick or throw balls. So maybe you're going to bring or take out the balls and allow the children to play with those and observe. So again, it can be a group activity, or it can be something you're bringing to the gym during that gym free play time for them to explore. Again, child initials and learning standards. Outdoor experiences, children need to go outside every single day, weather permitting. If your area does not have a playground, or the playground is not safe, or your school actually does not have a playground, then this would be kind of a walk outside. But again, there still should be some intention with that. So again, if we're learning about trees, maybe we look and see how many trees that we find on our walk that day. So be mindful that you can't just put nature walk here. What exactly are you doing on that nature or neighborhood walk? And what do you plan on pointing out to the children, or how are you going to bring learning outside? And even if it's them doing Simon Says and marching and clapping and moving their bodies in different ways outside. So you want to make sure that you're indicating that. Again, child initials and learning standards. And then here we have the individual planning form. So based on the child initials that you put in the lesson plan, you will transfer those initials here. You then need to indicate which developmental domain that child needed support or needed to be challenged in. And how did you come to that conclusion? So why was that chosen? Was it due to the child's IEP? Is it an ASQ, something that came up on the ASQ? Is it based on your observation or a parent concern, etc.? So it can be any one of those things. And then what is your goal for the child? So is your goal for the child that they will be able to cut with scissors properly? Is your goal that the child will be able to count 1 through 10 without missing the number 5? Maybe they always miss the number 5. So make sure you write down what you would like to see the child do. And that is the preschool creative curriculum lesson plan.